world. He did not experience any fading or returning energies. An incredible, unfathomable brightness engulfed him as he took his final breath. Suddenly, he was at the very center of paradise. Imagine the overwhelming happiness radiating from Don as he takes in the breathtaking view. Envision a celestial gathering similar to Coachella. In the celestial logistics, being before a sparkling gate makes distance irrelevant. Jesus is conspicuously missing from the celestial procession that is gathering around him, yet there are many recognizable faces. Don fondly calls them his celestial welcoming committee. Grandpa Joe Colbeth, who Don lovingly calls a big banana nose and has a shock of white hair, is front and center. A reunion of unmatched warmth is reflected in their embrace. Put aside concerns about getting there, the happiness of being reunited is more important. The strong character from Don's boyhood adventures with the ambulance now lives on as Grandpa, who had a heart attack himself. No one knows for sure why Grandpa is the one to take the lead. Maybe it's because Don was there when he passed away. But the procession of old acquaintances continues. There are lots of kisses, hugs, and handshakes, and Don is enjoying the outpouring of love. One notable guest at this celestial welcome party is Mike Wood, Don's childhood friend who led him to Christianity and Sunday school. Mike, a great athlete and nice guy overall, died in a vehicle crash when he was 19 years old. The celestial reunion is proof that love triumphs over everything, even though Don suffered sadness at his earthly death. The thrilling journey to the other side, filled with embraces, joy, and a welcoming committee that outshines any earthly celebration, comes to a close with Don's departure. Who knew that paradise would be a place full of familiar people and love? I don't know what else to say if this summary doesn't make you want to read the book. Witnesses to Mike's funeral saw Don struggling with deep mental distress. The unending stream of tears made one wonder why someone as religious as Mike had to be taken away. The anguish and grief that Don felt continued to haunt his memories even in the years that followed. Though Mike wasn't an ongoing preoccupation, Don couldn't help but feel sad any time he reflected. The story took a touching turn, though, when Don arrived in paradise. Mike stood by his side, his excitement radiating as he embraced Don with warmth. But once dominant anguish and loss diminished in this heavenly domain, Don never did get an answer to his mystery of why Mike seemed so happy, but the sheer delight of being there let him forget about his problems. For him, the event was just wonderful. Many heavenly beings called out to Don by name, welcoming him with open arms, their faces beaming with happiness that transcended earthly emotions. The celestial beings who lived here exuded an energy that was vital and joyful, as if time had no bearing on their presence here. Even though it was an event that happened in the past, Don decided to describe it using earthly references to make it easier to understand. Notable individuals who were welcomed included Don's great-grandfather and Barry Wilson, a high school buddy who tragically drowned. Their embraces exuded an unfathomable joy as the assembled sang praises to God and shared their joy at Don's entrance into the heavenly communion. Among the heavenly company were two instructors who had instructed Don in the ways of Jesus. Even though they didn't know each other on earth, Don felt a deep familiarity with these individuals because of the wide range of ages represented among them. Don found it difficult to put into words this awe-inspiring event. The euphoria, delight, warmth, and total contentment that defined the celestial experience were difficult for earthly words to express. Despite the long periods of touching, laughing, and expressing thanks, Don seemed completely absorbed in the experience and showed no signs of exhaustion. The enormous celestial family reunion that was waiting for Don at the gates of heaven was beyond anything that could be compared on earth. Everyone who had ever been to a family reunion in Monticello, Arkansas, brought a little bit of heaven to earth, making it the most spectacular reunion ever. Don found sensory sensations to be like a first-class smorgasbord in this heavenly universe. Powerful embraces, unmatched beauty, and a lightness and texture that defied worldly comparison engulfed his senses. Even tasting would have been more lovely than any earthly enjoyment, considering the colors were so vibrant and dazzling. Though Don couldn't remember tasting anything, Don felt as though he had entered a parallel universe in a manner that defies explanation. Even more than his happiest moments on earth, the overwhelming sensation of being completely alive in this heavenly dimension eclipsed them. As he attempted to process the bizarre event, he found himself utterly speechless in front of his family and friends. It was unclear whether or not someone really spoke it, but sounds of delight and enthusiasm could be heard. Rather than being a passing moment in this eternal heavenly realm, waiting and awaiting appeared to be a condition. Looking around at the faces, Don could see how each one had a part in his conversion to Christianity. He became a better follower as a result of their encouraging influence, which greatly aided his spiritual development. The details of their influence were left unsaid, even if discussions revolved around the sheer delight of being in this remarkable location with one another. Feeling overwhelmed, Don uttered a mere, "I'm happy to be with you," failing to adequately articulate the immense delight at being enveloped and caressed by the people he cared about. While in this paradisal condition, any remorse for abandoning loved ones or material belongings faded away as if God had washed his mind clear of all negativity and anxiety. Even though they were beaming with increased excitement, the familiar features looked just like they did on Earth. After years of slouching and wrinkling, Hattie Mann stood tall and proud, her smile as radiant as before. In this other world, where time stood still, it appeared that one's age had no bearing. In spite of flaws in their physical appearance, every single one of them had an exquisitely lovely face. Don couldn't shake the image of those radiant smiles and picture-perfect features. Even after all these years, he could still close his eyes and picture these cherished spirits who had welcomed him in heaven with unmatched hospitality. He held the sacred times he had with them in high regard and hoped for them always. Their features betrayed a love deeper and more powerful than anything he had ever felt in his earthly life as they hurried for him, embracing him from every angle in that first encounter. No words were said to express the love that flowed from every individual in heaven around him. As he soaked up their adoration, Don was overcome with astonishment and wonder. He looked away from the faces. Everything was illuminated by a blinding light, and words failed him to do justice to the scene. As they advanced toward a gate that emitted an even more intense beam of light, the scenery changed. An undulating hill ascended gently. Beyond the gate, which Don had anticipated being gloomy, there was instead a vast expanse of brilliant light. The light grew brighter as he walked, eventually outshining his previous experience with his loved ones. The feeling was like stepping out of a dark chamber into the bright sunshine. The comparison helped to convey the sensation to some extent. Regardless of how brilliant it was, the magnificence grew with every advance. Upon being enveloped by the light, Don sensed an entrance into God's presence. His celestial eyes were able to proceed with complete ease, in contrast to earthly eyes that adjust gradually. In paradise, our senses are amplified to the point where we can take in everything around us. As I move forward, a majestic sensory extravaganza unfurls, engulfing me in holy wonder. No one knows what is ahead, but as we move forward, awe fills the air. As if to enhance the developing experience, heavenly music reaches my ears. Regrettably, I am unable to provide any additional details regarding this narrative due to legal limitations. So the video for today has to end. It is my strong recommendation that you read this book among many others, if you haven't already. If you have read it and have any views to share, please do so in the comments.